Wonderful Life message for today is titled, Your Hidden Power. Your Hidden Power. Let's always remind ourselves every day that Jesus said, these things I have done, and greater things shall you do. And know that that promise of that greater thing still is within each and every one of us. That Jesus has told us that there's something greater. Every time we have a good desire for something, whatever that something may be, that it's a power within us, the power of God within us, the intelligence of God within us, the Spirit of God within us, seeking to express through us that something greater, whether it's a greater health, a greater joy, a greater success, a greater prosperity, a greater creative expression, a greater relationship to the life and to the universe in which we live and the people around us, whatever it may be. That is the Spirit choosing to express through us, but we must choose to allow the Spirit, the power and the intelligence of God, to flow through our mind, our heart, and our soul and become aware of that next good thing that we're to do, that increase in the good that we may already have. Let's look at these words from the great Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. He writes, since happiness and effectiveness depend upon the kinds of thoughts we think, it is absolutely impossible to be happy if we think unhappiness-producing thoughts. One of the wisest men who ever lived was Marcus Aurelius, who said, a man's life is what his thoughts make of it. If you put into your mind thoughts of fear, you will get thoughts of fear out of your mind. Fill your mind with resentment thoughts, and resentment attitudes will emerge, and in neither case, of course, can you find happiness-inducing thoughts. In my experience through many years in working with people, I have discovered that the most vital, creative, and positive thoughts are those stated in the Bible. Its words are alive. The Bible itself states what its spiritual words will do. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. This means simply that if you fill your mind with spiritual words so that they sink from your conscious to your subconscious mind by a process of spiritual osmosis, you will so condition your personality with spiritual power and sensitivity that God's will can operate in you. Every great value of this life, the ones that really matter, shall then be yours. Shall then be yours. So just think about those words from the great Dr. Norman Vincent Peale and realize that he's telling us that there's something within us. There's a power within us. There's this hidden power that we call mind, the law of mind. The law of mind is the law of God. Mind and spirit are synonymous. So it is the Spirit of God within us that can think. It's the Spirit of God within us that can choose. It's the Spirit of God within us that can make decisions about our future and to choose what kind of thoughts we have about ourselves and the world in which we live. And it's the power of God that will draw to us those good things that when we use the intelligence of God to choose wisely, we are in a new year, but for many people there is still a lot of unfinished business from the past year, goals that still are not met, desires unfulfilled, and dreams still not realized. Knowing that we can only move forward from where we are, it is good to make note of these things mentally. And for some people, the hopes and dreams of yesterday are no longer desirable, and we should finish with them in our mind by stating that this is so. If we have lost a sense of expectancy, then it is time to make a new list, to set a new goal, contemplate a new desire, and plan to manifest a new dream. But first, we must remind ourselves that in order to generate the level of faith and expectancy to demonstrate that which we choose to have, to do, and to be, we must recognize and identify with the power that makes all things possible. We must identify and recognize the power that makes all things possible. Now, the mystical Christian D. Larson, in his book, In Tune with the Infinite, provides for us with clarity the way in which to draw more of the intelligence and more of the power and more of the spirit of the infinite into our own heart, mind, and soul. Let's look at these words from his book, In Tune with the Infinite. He writes, there is a mystic force that transcends the powers of the intellect and likewise of the body. There are certain faculties that we have that are not a part of the active thinking mind. They transcend any possible activities of the active thinking mind. Through them, we have intuition, we have impulses, we have leadings that instead of being merely the occasional, these things should be the normal and the habitual. They would be if we understood better the laws that pertain to them and observed them. For here, as in connection with everything in the universe and everything in human life, all is governed by law. All is governed by law, the elemental law of cause and effect. Supreme intelligence, creative power, works only through law. That's the supreme intelligence and creative power is God. There is an inner spirit or guide that rules and regulates the life when the life is brought into that state or condition whereby it can make itself known and in turn dominate the life. In other words, our good thoughts can dominate our life, but we must make sure that our good thoughts dominate all the negative thoughts and all the negative things that come to us, so that when something comes to us of a distasteful or uncomfortable or even something that appears to be evil, and we know that evil is just live spelled backwards, it's God upside down or good upside down, then we must reject it. Christian D. Larson writes, Jesus, the master of the laws of life and supreme revealer of them to mankind, had a full and practical knowledge of these laws. He not only abundantly demonstrated them in his own life, but he made clear the way whereby it may become the common possession of other people's lives. Do not worry about your life, was the master's clear-cut and repeated command. He not only gave the injunction or command, but he demonstrated the method whereby the fears and the forebodings and the uncertainties of life can be displaced by a force or a power that will bring them to an end. It was embodied in his other injunction or command that he gave utterance to so repeatedly. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And by all these things he meant all of the common needs and necessities of life, all the common needs and necessities of life. So when we take that into our mind, we realize that this is truly the process in which we want to work. It's a process that can displace all those old negative thoughts, all those negative images, all those negative beliefs that caused us to believe in lack and limitation, that caused us to believe in illness and poverty, that caused us to believe in struggle and strife. We displace all those old thoughts with the more powerful thoughts that within each and every one of us, within our own mentality, we have the ability to tap into the power, the intelligence, and the Spirit of God. So it is without question that our desires come to our awareness through a myriad of means, and as we recognize that all desires for material things are simply symbols, then we realize that perhaps we may not receive the new car or the new home or the new job, but as we keep faith, then we will realize that something greater that these things symbolize will be part of our life experience. The Mastermind Jesus' instruction to seek ye first the kingdom of God is to go deep within our mind, our heart, and our soul to recognize what these things symbolize and to realize that they symbolize something new, something greater, something more than we have experienced before, but not always the thing that our human mind has conceived them to be. If there is any argument in our mind or lack of trust in the intelligence that is at work in us and throughout the universe in which we live, then we have not developed the mental equivalent of accepting our greater good, and we must form the mental equivalent, because that's the way in which the law works. It responds to us by corresponding to that which we believe to be true. So if we believe that there is a power within me that can tap into the intelligence and the Spirit and the power of God and draw into my life through faith the wonderful things, the beautiful things that I choose to experience, then that will become true for us. Let's just realize today that as we go through life, that all manner of things come to us that are for our good. That each and every one of us have the ability to tap into that spirit that reigns supreme in all things. Just as we read in Psalm 51:10, renew a right spirit within me. Renew a right spirit within me. As we affirm this, renew a right spirit within me, it will bring us friends and health and happiness and success, and it can improve anything that's going on in our life, especially our disposition. The word disposition refers to the manner in which we are disposed to react to situations and people. If our automatic emotional reaction is irritable or crabby or selfish, it impairs or even destroys our relationships. The quality of our disposition depends upon our inner spirit, and as we renew the right spirit within us, as the great Dr. Norman Vincent Peale stressed, we displace all those old frictions in our mind that caused us to become irritable or uncomfortable or uncertain or even anxious about what's going on in our life experience. So many people walk around with anxiety, and anxiety can lead to depression, and depression can lead to fear, and fear leads to all manner of bad choices and bad decisions about our lives. People do all manner of things to escape life, to escape realizing that power within them. Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you, not low here or low there. So he's telling us that the intelligence, the power of the Spirit, all the things that are of the nature of God, the creative mind, the creative ability to draw into our mentality the greater thing, the greater intelligence, the greater ideas, the greater awareness, to have that greater life, is within us. But people will do all manner of things because they become discouraged, or they allow the world's belief in failure, the world's belief in comparisons, and the world's belief in competition to dull their senses, and so they reach out to alcohol and drugs and all manner of things that even separate them even further from the good they choose to experience. We can't go around depending on anything outside of us and then expect that power within us to surface within our mind, within our soul, and within our heart with any great power if we're drugged and dulled by all manner of things that the world will give us to dull our senses, the alcohol, the drugs, obsessions with sex, and all these things that go through the human mind, the obsession with comparisons, obsessions with competition. So many people, all they're guided by is competition and comparisons. And it doesn't matter who it is out here that we blame or shame, or who it is out here that we feel is less than we are. That never makes us greater. The only thing that can ever make us greater in life, give us a greater opportunity to express more of life, to receive more of the abundant life, is that power within us, connected in recognition and identification with our source, which is God, infinite spirit, infinite intelligence, and infinite power. So we can begin to realize a greater potential within our inner self, with our own personalized hidden power within, if we just make the decision to do so. Christian D. Larson says the higher forces and powers of the inner life, those of the mind and spirit, always potential within, become of actual value only as they are recognized, realized, and used. The mastermind Jesus' way of the Spirit, the finding of the kingdom within, leads into no blind alley. It leads out and triumphantly out onto the great plain of clear vision, of unself-centered activity, of heroic endeavor and accomplishment. If we would spend a fraction of the time that we spend in needless anxiety, in definite constructive thought, in silent demand, visualizing the conditions that we would have, with faith in their fulfillment, we would soon know that the mastermind Jesus' illustration of the carefree bird is fact and not fancy. It is, he said, what life should be. He said, look at Look at the sparrows. Look at the sparrows. They're free. They're clothed. They're protected. Look at nature. Look at nature. See the lilies, how they grow. The lilies aren't concerned with competition. The lilies aren't concerned with comparisons. The lilies aren't concerned with all those false ideas that have been imposed upon us by the world in which we live. They're free to express who they are and what they are, and to grow beautifully and wonderfully and graciously through the intelligence of God within them. So let's go back to these words of Christian D. Larson. He writes, if we would spend a fraction of the time that we spend in needless anxiety, in definite constructive thought, in silent demand, visualizing the conditions that we would have, with faith in their fulfillment, we would soon know that the mastermind Jesus' illustration of the carefree bird is fact and not fancy. It is, he said, what life should be. The little time spent in the quiet each day, alone with one's God, that we may make and keep our connection with the infinite source and our life, will be a boon to anyone's life. It will prove, if we are faithful, to be the most priceless possession that we have, to be the most priceless possession that we have. So let's just imagine that. Imagine it, that we go into the silence, we go into the closet of our mind, as Jesus would say, to go into the closet and shut out the noise and the nonsense of the world, and it will become the most priceless possession that we have, our ability to connect with God, our ability to be in tune with the infinite. Let's remind ourselves there is a mystic force that transcends the powers of the intellect, the thinking mind, and likewise of the body. There are certain faculties that we have that are not a part of the active thinking mind. They transcend any possible activities of the active thinking mind. He's referring to the Spirit of God itself within each and every one of us. Through these forces, we have intuitions, we have impulses, we have leadings that instead of being the merely occasional, should become the normal and the habitual. And they would be if we understood better the laws that pertain to them and observed them, for here, as in connection with everything in the universe and everything in human life, all is governed by law, the elemental law of cause and effect. Supreme intelligence, creative power, works only through law. There is an inner spirit or guide that rules and regulates the life when the life is brought into that state or condition whereby it can make itself known and in turn dominate the life. So what he's telling us here is, just as Jesus tells us in the simplest form possible to give us clarity and understanding, that as we sow, so shall we reap. That's the law of cause and effect. As we sow, so shall we reap. No matter what it was that we sowed into our minds yesterday, no matter what it was that we were believing yesterday, as we sow a new idea into our mind today, we shall reap the harvest of that new idea. Because that sowing and reaping is just as simple as if we plant corn this year, we will get corn. But in the next moment, the next year, that year being a moment of time in eternity, we plant soybeans, we will reap soybeans. We won't reap the corn again, we will reap the soybeans. So it's up to us to sow into our mind the ideas, the images, the thoughts, the visualizations, the words, whatever it may be, that give us that potential to realize and to experience the good life, the joyful life, and the wonderful life. So let's remember those words. The little time spent in the quiet each day, alone with one's God, that we may make and keep our connection with the infinite source and our life, will be a boon to any life. It will prove, this is from Christian D. Larson, if we are faithful, to be the most priceless possession that we have. So let's know together that our thoughts make us what we are, and right here and in the hereafter, and so we must condition our mind to think the thoughts of faith, the thoughts of accomplishment, the thoughts of realizing the hidden power within that fills our thoughts of faith with power and our thoughts of accomplishment with satisfaction. The intelligence that clothed our spirit in human form and gifted us with this life is always with us, but never interferes with us nor intervenes for us, for God has already imparted within each of us all the power, intelligence, and presence of mind necessary to realize all that is required for us to enjoy every day of this thing called life. So your hidden power must be recognized and identified with simply by saying, you can start by simply saying, there is a power within me. There is a power within me. And start thinking of what you're going to do with that power that is